category for Winter's Bone.
He was one of Hollywood's rising stars, a director known for his charm on set, his eye for talent, and his uncanny ability to make breakout hits. He had studios lining up with blank checks. Then, one afternoon on a closed set in New Orleans, Jennifer Lawrence said just one sentence, 5 words: calm, cold, precise. And that was the moment his career ended, but the world didn't hear about it. There were no headlines, no lawsuits, no press conferences, just silence. Within weeks, the director vanished from upcoming projects. His name was erased from studio shortlists. Industry friends stopped taking his calls. The trades reported creative differences. But insiders knew Jennifer had said something no one else dared to say in front of the wrong people at the right time. It wasn't a scandal in the traditional sense. There was no leaked tape, no number Me Too hashtag, no dramatic expose. Just the quiet, devastating truth, uttered in one line that struck fear into a producer's face and shattered a career built on fear and manipulation. Why was it buried? Who protected her or silenced her? And what did this director do that made one of the most powerful actresses in Hollywood finally speak up? The truth behind that one sentence is much darker. Before the red carpets, before the Oscars, before she was the face of rebellion in the Hunger Games, Jennifer Lawrence was just a restless girl in Louisville, Kentucky, climbing trees, wrestling her brothers, and flat out refusing to be anything less than seen. She was born in 1990 to a construction company owner and a summer camp manager, the kind of family where toughness wasn't optional. Her mother didn't let her play with other girls because she thought they were too soft. Jennifer didn't cry when she broke bones. She didn't fit in at school. In fact, she hated it. Diagnosed with social anxiety as a child, she often felt like a stranger in her own skin until she discovered performance. On stage, she wasn't awkward. She wasn't too intense. She was powerful, controlled, alive. By 14, she convinced her parents to take her to New York to audition. No agent, no manager, just raw confidence. A casting director saw her tape and told her something that would define her career: "You have an old soul and a dangerous honesty." She dropped out of school, moved to LA, started booking roles, mostly small parts, but every line she delivered had weight. She didn't act like she wanted to be famous. She acted like she had something to prove. And that edge, that refusal to be silenced, even in a town that thrives on silence, never left her. It made her magnetic on screen. It made her a nightmare for anyone who tried to control her off-screen. She was no puppet, not even at 18. So when she walked onto the set of House at the End of the Street, a low-budget horror film where the director had too much power and too little accountability, something was already simmering. Not fear, not intimidation, conviction. She wasn't a child anymore, and she wasn't going to play nice. She wasn't supposed to get Winter's Bone. Producers were looking for someone older, someone grittier. Jennifer was 19, clean-faced, and too polished, or so they thought. So she hiked 8 miles in the Ozark cold, showed up unwashed, her hair matted with sweat, and stood in front of them like she'd already survived the life they were trying to cast. She got the role. And then came the nominations. An Oscar nod at 20. Then X-Men, First Class. Then The Hunger Games. Within 3 years, Jennifer Lawrence went from unknown to the face of 2 global franchises. But unlike other rising stars, she didn't shrink under the pressure. She clowned in interviews, tripped on red carpets, called out industry sexism during press tours, and Hollywood loved her until it started fearing her. Because she didn't play the game. She didn't flirt with power. She didn't adjust her opinions to please studios. She turned down roles that came with conditions. And she said things sharp, unfiltered things on set and off, that others only whispered in trailers. But behind the charm and charisma, something else was building, a pattern. Multiple times, she would butt heads with directors, not because she was difficult, but because she refused to be controlled. She'd call out inappropriate comments, question scripts, push back on blocking that made her uncomfortable. She once told a director to shut the camera off in the middle of a scene because she caught him zooming in too far. Another time, she walked off set when a producer made a joke about her marketability. And yet, the public never heard about these moments. Because she was winning. Box office records. A Best Actress Oscar at 22. Vanity Fair, Vogue, Time's 100 Most Influential. But under the surface, resentment grew. Not from the public. From the men, she made nervous. One in particular. A director she clashed with on a film that never made headlines because what happened behind the scenes was buried so fast, no one outside the set even knew there had been a war. Until she said that one sentence. The set was tense from day one. The director, known for his method approach, ran the production like a dictatorship. He dismissed concerns, shouted at crew, and issued demeaning notes under the guise of pushing performances. For most, it was just another job in Hollywood. You keep your head down, you finish the scene, and you don't speak unless spoken to. Jennifer Lawrence had a different rule. You don't disrespect people and expect silence. The first conflict came during a night shoot. She questioned a line that sexualized her character unnecessarily. He snapped back. "You're here to act, not to rewrite." She paused, then delivevered the line deadpan, hollow, stripped of the seduction he wanted. The message was clear. She would not sell herself for his fantasy. "And then I so very?" He retaliated, passive-aggressively, quietly, changing camera angles without notice, blocking her into tight spaces, whispering direction that made her visibly uncomfortable. Then came the moment. A closed set, small crew, a pivotal scene where her character breaks down. He demanded repeated takes 10, 11, 12, until her voice cracked. He hovered closer with every shot. At take 13, she froze. Something in his eyes crossed a line. It wasn't about art anymore, it was control. She stepped back, locked eyes with him, and said 5 words that hit like a blade. "You're not directing, you're hunting." Silence. The entire set froze. No one moved, no one breathed. He tried to laugh it off, but no one laughed with him. Jennifer left the set, not in tears, in silence. That night, a producer who overheard everything made a call. Quiet meetings followed. Legal teams reviewed NDAs. The narrative was rewritten. Creative differences. Scheduling conflicts. Project delays. But the reality was simpler. Jennifer Lawrence called out something no one else dared to name, and did it with precision, in front of witnesses who mattered. He never directed a major studio film again. His IMDb page dried up. Collaborators vanished. Publicly, no one said a word. There was no exposé, no lawsuit, because the damage was already done. Not to her. To him? All it took was one sentence. He didn't disappear overnight. At first, he tried to salvage it, pitched new scripts, called in old favors, dropped Jennifer's name in meetings like nothing had happened. But doors that once opened before he knocked were suddenly sealed shut. Studio executives who once praised his vision now ghosted him. Agents who owed him careers stopped returning calls. He was quietly cut from 2 upcoming projects, both citing restructuring. One former collaborator put it bluntly, "He crossed someone who doesn't need to shout to be heard. Jennifer doesn't threaten, she just speaks, and when she does, people listen." He spiraled. Whispers followed him to every meeting. Difficult, aggressive, unsafe. Friends distanced themselves. Rumors leaked not to tabloids, but to boardrooms. His name wasn't blacklisted officially. It was worse than that. It was forgotten. Meanwhile, Jennifer kept rising. American Hustle, Joy, another Oscar nomination, Time magazine covers, Harvard calling her a genius of emotional intelligence. But in interviews, when asked about that director, she never named him, never gloated, never revisited the moment. Because she didn't need to. The industry already knew. And that's what made it so haunting. There was no trial, no punishment, no justice. Just a career evaporated in silence, and a woman who never raised her voice because she didn't have to. Years later, he was spotted teaching a night class at a community college, giving notes to amateur filmmakers, still talking about power in the frame. But something in his face was different now. Not bitterness, not guilt. Emptiness. The kind that comes when you realize your game is over, and the only person who beat you never played it to begin with. Hollywood has seen rebels before, divas, whistleblowers, burnouts. But Jennifer Lawrence was something else entirely, a force disguised as familiarity. She laughed on talk shows, tripped at the Oscars, cursed during interviews. People saw her as real, relatable, fun. What they didn't see or didn't want to see was the steel behind the smile. She never needed to burn bridges. She made them irrelevant. She never launched a crusade. She simply held the mirror up and let the system see its own reflection. That one sentence, "You're not directing, you're hunting," was never meant to go viral. It was meant to be heard in the room that needed it most. And it was. Years later, young actresses entering the industry cite her not for a single role, but for how she carried herself behind the scenes, for how she said no when it was easier to say thank you. People often ask what legacy Jennifer Lawrence will leave. It's tempting to say the Oscar, the box office, the franchises. But maybe it's this. She changed the rules without asking permission. And when the silence around her got loud, she let the silence speak for itself.